leaders and CEOs and task each of them with building the tallest possible structure using unprepared spaghetti, tape, and a marshmallow. What is your bet? Will the winners be savvy CEOs or ambitious business students? Or will lawyers show everybody who's the boss? If you put faith in these groups, prepare to lose money, because kindergartners are the winners. How is it possible? Surprisingly, kids have a better understanding of collaboration. If you look at companies like Google, Pixar, or any other successful and well-known enterprise, you might notice they have something in common: a strong teamwork culture. But how did they acquire this quality? Did it come naturally to employees, or did they learn to do it? Daniel Coyle took his time to observe different groups of people and concluded that the secret lies in a specific skill set that can unite people and make them achieve incredible things. Key point 2. The power of one. It may take only one person to sabotage the whole team's work. To prove this point, researcher Will Phelps sent his double agent, Nick, into various groups to stir chaos. Nick played 3 roles: confrontational and rebellious bully, pessimistic downer, and not mirrored his behavior. They turned lazy, cynical, or aggressive. But as always happens, there was one team where Nick was powerless. All because of one person. Let's call him John. Despite all his efforts, and mind you, Nick was good at naughty things, the double agent couldn't undermine John's team performance. John's approach wasn't about grand gestures or authoritative commands. He leaned in, used positive body language, and engaged others with warmth and curiosity. He dismissed the double agent's negative energy and encouraged Nick to participate in discussions. John created a safe space where everyone felt heard and valued. No wonder most highly successful team members describe their group dynamics as family-like. They're motivated to achieve higher results if they feel comfortable around their colleagues. Here are some indicators of a safe work community. People ask many questions and are open to addressing any team member, regardless of their status. When it comes to discussion, people gather together, often in circles. A group has a lot of eyes and physical contact, hugging or handshaking. There's room for humor and jokes. And everyone is an active listener. Even though people have the powerful instrument of language, on a subconscious level, they still trust behavioral cues more. There should be a sense of belonging in a team environment, and management should constantly stimulate this feeling. Here's another example that might help you understand the concept. Imagine you're working on a complex project, and your manager hands you a note from your colleague. In a message, you find tips on how to do the task more efficiently. Boom, your productivity rises to the sky. Was it the magical tip from your colleague? Not at all. You just felt there was someone who cared for you at your workplace, and it gave you colossal motivation. Care and support can go a long way in creating a successful and productive team. Key point 3. Toxic work culture is a real thing. Sometimes it's helpful to analyze the behavior of teams with the worst performance to have an example of what not to do. Here comes the staff of American Air Force bases that oversee nuclear missile launches. Yes, you heard this right. According to Daniel Coyle, there are significant issues within the team in charge of the most lethal weapon in the world. So what happened? It all started during the last decade. On one occasion, inspectors found missileers playing video games during work. Another day, a tractor carrying tons of rocket boosters ended up in a ditch. And it got even worse. As Coyle stated, some workers got caught using drugs like cocaine. It's a disaster, but let's dissect the causes of such misconduct. No future together. Those serving in nuclear missile operation units may perceive their roles as less central to immediate national defense strategies. Missileers feel stuck in a not very promising and prestigious Army unit. No sense of security. Missileers know a lot. They memorize tons of information, checklists, and codes because every mistake matters. Because of this pressure and management that screams and scolds at every opportunity, they hesitate to ask for advice or help. Terrible work conditions. Missileers typically spend most of their time in missile silos, which are old and dirty. According to Coyle, missileers who left their job and found other careers claim that they can finally live a content life. Hence, it wasn't a matter of discipline or personal traits that contributed to the catastrophic environment at the air bases. It was solely a toxic work culture that made people feel like they didn't belong there. It's not necessary for a workplace to always be about positivity and good vibes. There should be room for feedback and uncomfortable conversations, but leaders must know how to provide these things correctly. In an experiment, teachers had to give feedback to students who had written essays. There were different types of remarks, but one was the most effective. It sounded like this: "I'm giving you these comments because I have very high expectations, and I know you can reach them." This type of feedback contains no information about the essay. Instead, it implies that the teacher deems the student part of a very exclusive community and believes in their success. When giving feedback, emphasize growth potential instead of just mistakes. Key point 4. How to escape catastrophic failure. In 1989, something remarkable happened in the sky above Iowa State. A plane from Denver to Chicago suffered an engine explosion. If there's an engine failure, the aircraft can do just fine, but not with Flight 232. The blast led to hydraulic system failure, and the plane tilted to the right without allowing the pilots to gain control. In aviation, specialists would classify this type of situation as catastrophic failure, rare and 100% fatal. So instructors do not even bother training people for such occurrences. But the crew of Flight 232 decided to take their chances. Luckily, one of the passengers was pilot trainer Denny Fitch, who heard about the issues and offered some help. When he reached the cockpit, he saw pilots struggling to cope. He immediately responded, "Tell me what you want and I'll help you." After that, they all started communicating in short messages. Interestingly, the team captain, Al Haynes, wasn't authoritative. He didn't act all tough and know-it-all. He asked other crew members questions and tried to brainstorm with everybody. In a way, Al demonstrated that he was vulnerable. He showed his colleagues that he was also human and needed help, creating an atmosphere of trust within the team. A shared exchange of openness. It's the most basic building block of cooperation and trust. Daniel Coyle. The crew of Flight 232 landed the plane, but part of it caught fire upon impact. 185 people survived the flight, and the experts say it was a great miracle. After some time, investigators decided to experiment in a simulation room. Under the same conditions as Flight 232, crew members had to maintain the plane, and all attempts were unsuccessful. Key point 5. Become the leader everyone admires. It takes a lot of time for vulnerability to become a critical quality within the team. And it's not only about saying, "I screwed up" in front of everyone. It comprises many parts that, in the end, create a comfortable atmosphere at a workplace. Here are some tactics that might help you find the right direction. If you are the leader, you should be the first person to show vulnerability. When the person in charge admits their mistakes or asks their subordinates for help, it changes people's perspective on vulnerability. It suddenly changes from a weakness to a strength, a quality people might respect. Whether you have bad news or negative feedback, always deliver it personally. It seems easier to inform your employees about any inconvenience via email or text. But imagine the awkwardness you'll feel when meeting face-to-face. Become an active listener. Don't just stand and nod when listening to somebody. Ask questions and make subtle suggestions based on what you hear. Be patient and attentive to your employees and colleagues. Do not try to make it all about yourself. When listening to somebody, you might feel the temptation to offer your ideas or immediate solutions to the problem. In such a way, you don't allow another person to express themselves. Be open about your willingness to cooperate with other people. Don't expect people to come to you and naturally immerse themselves in brainstorming. First, outline your teamwork expectations. Present them to the team and try to stick to them. Take advantage of language. Let the terms and titles you use reflect the nature of your work. For example, the global design firm IDEO calls its product managers design community leaders. In Pixar, they don't provide notes of suggestions. They plus them. Draw a line between performance review and professional development. In most companies, managers like to mix these two conversations into one, and it's the wrong thing to do. A performance review is often critical and evaluative, and sometimes it might be a very uncomfortable conversation. On the contrary, talking about professional development should be encouraging and inspiring. Leadership is no longer about the feeling of authority, but unity and connectedness. Key point 6. The staff-first approach to work. There are a lot of places on Earth where people would find it difficult to survive. Take, for example, dense tropical jungles. Arctic regions, or unexpectedly, the restaurant scene in the big cities. In New York City, the competition is particularly fierce. You may open several restaurants around the city and very few would survive. The restaurant's quality is not only about the food or the interior, it's about the attitude toward the customers and the atmosphere within the team. Danny Meyer opened 25 restaurants in New York City, and all of them except one are popular places among citizens. What makes them stand out? They're very people-oriented. The staff will remember if you prefer to sit in a particular place or eat a specific dish occasionally. They'll listen to your words and make your stay pleasurable. But it wasn't like that all the time. Danny confides that there were times when everything fell apart for his restaurants. No matter how hard he tried to teach the staff, at times they still perceived their job as mundane things they couldn't wait to get over with, or were even passive-aggressive toward customers. Danny started revolutionizing his work and team strategy by setting priorities. Interestingly, the first place took not customers, but colleagues. The way you interact with your colleagues defines the whole work process. The next step was creating catchphrases that would be easy to remember and help employees navigate at work. For example, there was a phrase, collecting the dots and connecting the dots, meaning the waiter should have collected the customer's information and used it to create the best experience. Another one was making the charitable assumption. It reminded the employees that they should never take bad words or any harsh criticism from customers personally. They don't know them, therefore they should give them the benefit of the doubt. These catchphrases, among others, helped Danny and his staff create a welcoming atmosphere at his restaurants. The road to success is paved with mistakes well handled. Daniel Coyle. Did you know? According to Harvard studies, a strong team culture can increase net income by 765 times in 11 years. Conclusion. A strong team culture doesn't appear out of thin air. It results from meticulous brainstorming, uncomfortable conversations, and hard work during turbulent times. Nearly every successful company has carved its core values in times of crises, when all the issues asked for attention. The famous animation studio Pixar faced enormous challenges while creating a sequel to Toy Story. Everything they came up with felt bland, but instead of giving up the idea, they decided to regroup and muse on other options. In the end, they did a total redo of the plot, which proved to be the most effective move. Successful teams have a unique quality. They view every setback as an opportunity to learn. They reflect on the moment they faced challenges and even reminisce with fondness because it was, surprisingly, their prime period. It was the time when they identified all their shortcomings and developed a comprehensive strategy that kept them prosperous for many years. Try this. Create catchphrases for your company. Some people might see this as cheesy and childish, but those phrases serve as a powerful reminder of the purpose of your work and the actions you need to take to succeed. Don't limit your team's imagination. Support those employees who want to create something. There might be some ideas that could revolutionize your business. Figure out what your priority is and base your metrics around it. You shouldn't force your employees to chase numbers if you value quality over quantity. Instead, establish another criterion that measures your employees' effectiveness. For example, customer satisfaction.